To have my vengeance against men who murdered my father, I will need to rise from the ashes and become a champion in fighting worlds. I will level up my stats, learn new skills and abilities, and even become a mafia boss. I will also beat the game on hardcore, hunt down all 47 achievements, discover the secret behind the legendary medallion that led to my father's death, and even fight some mutant ninja crocodiles. And it all started in this rundown house of mine, with me sleeping on the couch. I woke up to a call from Frank, a friend of my father who promised to give me a hand. He yelled at me to stop being lazy and to get to work, since I was broker than a AAA release. I obviously ignored his advice and started the day with my morning workout routine, managing a whopping 4 push-ups. It's not about the duration, it's about quality, alright? I had a soda to make sure that I hit my daily protein goal, and spent $6 on a bus to get to work. This was when a group of gangsters assaulted me and demanded my clothes and my imaginary motorcycle. Why are y'all being like that to me? I thought we were friends. As a good philanthropist, I also offered my shoes in a promotional bundle, which apparently smelled really bad, because they got offended and decided to hit me. Before the fight, I was able to choose my loadout for the barrel. I had 2 active slots which I used to equip my punch and block abilities. And I don't know if it is because I'm playing on hardcore, but Big Bo right here was freaking powerful. He had 8 points in strength, 5 in agility and 3 in stamina, while I only had 1 in all of them. That's not fair. Needless to say, I beat the dust. Or the bet, I guess. I lost without landing a single hit, but at least I managed to complete my first goal, which was to participate in a fight for the first time. I then met an old man called Mick, who thought my ability to get hit with the bat was pretty impressive. I told him that I always had a great right hook, and unlocked the strong arms perk, which will come in handy because it will boost my punch damage for the rest of the game. Mick told me to swing by his office to have a talk, and also asked us to visit the grocery store, and ask its owner a poo for his meat, which apparently went missing. I visited Mick like he asked, and he told me that he would train us himself if we succeeded in proving our worth in the Mature Fight League. It was run in the gym of a friend of his, and we could also train there if we were ever tired of working out at home. He also mentioned that he would feed me if I ever run out of money, and you can be sure that I will exploit his kindness soon enough. For now though, I paid a visit to Silver's gym and met Silver himself. He asked me to spar with him, but he had way more stats and skills than me, so I got absolutely smoked. He straight up told me that I was out of shape, and offered a permanent discount to train in his gym. There was a lot of different equipments that gave different stats, so I made sure to try each and every one of them to learn which equipment gave which stat. At least that was the plan, but I quickly got hungry and ate 2 whole frozen pizzas, without even unfreezing them. I'm such a machine. They used to call me Ice Crusher back in high school. With $3 to my name, I decided to stop being lazy, and went to the construction site to work for a full day, which yielded me a grand total of $100. Nice, we aren't broke anymore. And this was when I learned that we actually lose stats at the end of each day, so we need to keep working out regularly to maintain our current strength. Since I finally had some money, I stopped by the grocery shop and met Apu. He offered a bunch of different foods, but after a quick analysis, I determined that the meat had the best price to satiety ratio, so that's what I'm going to buy from now on. I bought 4 steaks and 2 frozen pizzas, which completely depleted my savings, and paid a visit to Mick. Since even though I had food at home, I was still theoretically broke and hungry, he gladly agreed to help me out and gave me a meal. Thanks, mate. I appreciate it. After that, I returned home to catch some Z's, and ate 2 whole beefs for breakfast. After a little bit of work, it was finally time to have my first fight in the Rookie League. Our adversary was Song Mo, and with 1 point in each set, he was as weak as we were. We both decided to use punch and block. Not that I had that many choices to begin with. I could only change the block for the dodge, but since our agility was low, I didn't think it would be worth it. Aight mate, I'ma smash you to pieces. The first round was full of punches, as you would expect from a game called Punch Club, and Song managed to take the upper hand. having 2 more health than we did. Not that big of a difference, I'ma confess. We did manage a comeback in later rounds though, and in the 5th round, Song mowed the ground, earning us our first victory and 3 skill points as a reward. These can be used in skill tree to unlock new skills and perks, which will make us stronger. I used one of the 3 points that I earned to learn the Tactics Learner perk, which lets us see more details about fighting skills. I then signed up for next fight, and paid 15 cabbages to do hand pets training with silver, which yielded me 2 more skill points. Since the next fight was coming up, and I was still weak as hell, I paid $10 to enter the gym, and grinded the treadmill and the barbell squats, until I was tired. This got me 3 points in strength and 3 points in stamina, which was actually quite decent for only a day of training, although my strength fell back to 2 after the day passed. When I returned home to have a snooze, the phone was ringing. It was Frank again. He told me that he had left his old fighting guide on the table, and that I should check it out. Everyone knows that books are for wussies, and that your time is better spent in the gym, bro. But since this was a book about how to train properly, I gave it a read. It let us know that we shouldn't try to level up all stats equally, and we should instead focus on one primary stat, and make our entire build around it. It also told us what each stat did, with strength increasing the damage of all of our hits, but also increasing the energy consumption, agility increasing the accuracy and chance to avoid enemy attacks, and stamina increasing our energy regeneration and damage absorption. It also warned us to not try to keep the stats high all the time, since it can be expensive, and instead just raise them before a fight. This was when I decided the build that I would do, and I chose the Way of the Bear, which specialized in going Yunga Bunga and dealing great big damage. With this in mind, I will mostly train my strength, ignore my agility, and pump a point or 2 in stamina to make sure that we don't run out of it mid-fight and get knocked down. I will also ignore kick and dodge base abilities, since they require agility to be effective. Tired of reading, I hit the sack, ate some more beef, and used 2 of the 4 skill points that I had to unlock High Punch, which is a more powerful version of the Simple Punch that expends more energy. I also did this because the next skill that I would be able to unlock on that tree path was Meat Runner, and it was a pretty overpowered one. More on that later. I got in a quick hour of work, trained with silver again since the 24-hour cooldown had ended, and dropped by the gym to prepare for the fight that was to happen soon. But when I entered the place, a big fella asked me to spot him, and I couldn't be more honored. As thanks for spotting him, he told me about a warehouse across the river that hosted underground ultimate fights, and that I could go there to kick some ass and receive some big bucks. He also told me that I should be careful, since I could receive some serious injuries during the fight, unlike in the Rookie League. Considering that my face can't get any worse either way, I will certainly check it out. The workout comes first though, and I was able to get 4 points in stamina, which was one of the 2 goals that I had for this training session. Why, you might ask? Well, that's because now I fulfilled the minimum requirements to unlock Meat Runner, which ensures that our stamina won't fall below 4, even if the day passes, which is pretty neat. The other goal was to hit 4 strength, and with that, I'm finally ready for my match against Hexor Lamacho. He was packing 3 points in each stat, making a total of 9 points, which was actually the same as us. I changed my normal punch for the high punch version and engaged in barrel. The first round was pretty good, since we managed to deal him more damage than he dealt to us. But it wasn't that simple, because our stamina almost ran out, and if it did, we would have fallen in the floor and taken huge damage. I didn't want that happening, so in the second round I changed back the high version of the punch for normal one, since it required less energy to use. The idea was good, but it was already too late, and we kissed the floor. 2 times at that. We still had advantage in health, but if this was to continue, we would lose. We did regain some energy between rounds, but it didn't prove enough, and with nothing that I could do, I kept going down and down, round after round, taking a big chunk of damage each time. And in the 5th round, Hexor showed us who is the real macho, and knocked us out for good. As a reward for surviving the face surgery, we got 2 skill points, and I went home to take a nap. Apparently, all the punches that I took to the face had finally caught up to me, and I started becoming crazy in the head and seeing things. Like a weird suitcase that looks like a bomb from the Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes game. I came close to investigate it, and it showed me a glitched version of the map, with a crosshair aimed at my home. I was pretty sure that an explosion was near, but surprisingly nothing happened, and I continued with my day. I assaulted the fridge to replenish my hunger and recover my health, since the higher it is, the more actual health points I have in fights, and went for a short sleep. With my energies renewed, I swung by the suspicious warehouse where the ultimate fights were being hosted, and met a dodgy glass-wearing man. He agreed to let me participate in the matches, and I immediately took part in one. I was up against Fred, who loves to get laid on the floor. He beat my ass. At least I got 20 bucks for it, and hey, there is a lot of stuff that I would do for 20. But I discovered that getting my ass beaten is not one of them. I had a little talk with the glass jacket wearing man, and he told me that he would be just like me if he hadn't burned his face. I was curious to know how burning his face saved him from being a loser, but he wasn't willing to elaborate. I then unlocked the active skill, which gave me one additional ability slot to use in combat. I trained with silver, worked for a day, trained with silver yet again, and used my hard-earned skill points to acquire the skip attacks technique, which increases the chance that we will skip an attack phase and regenerate energy, and it is this skill that I will use the extra slot for. I stopped by the grocery shop, and Apu mentioned that his friend owned a restaurant, and that he might have a job for me. Before checking that out though, I spent all my funds on food, and swung by Mick's office to ask him for a meal, since I was hungry and poor, even though I had food at home. Free stuff always tastes better, right? He did feed me, but he also warned that this would be the last time. Truly heartbreaking news. Feeling defeated, I came back home to a bomb suitcase that was once again open and glowing. This time the crosshair was on the grocery shop, and upon arriving there I discovered that it had been assaulted by some weirdo bandits in animal masks. But instead of stealing the cash, they actually stole all the cat food, which is strange to say the least. I took a snooze, ate my usual breakfast at around 7 PM, and joined the Rookie League fight at the last minute. I added the skip attacks to my active skills, and completely destroyed Song Mo. Yes, I know, he is the weakest fighter in the game, and I'm only fighting him because I'm last place in the league. But a win is a win, right? After that I clocked in some hours of work, practiced with silver, worked out until I hit 5 strength for the first time, and finally remembered to visit the restaurant of Apu's friend, Casey. He needed someone to deliver pizza, and I was certainly up to the job. I also asked him about the special pizza, but he complained that we had way too many orders right now, and that we should talk later. After one more training session with Silver, I finally had enough points to learn Uppercut, a powerful punch that doesn't require much agility, which is perfect for our strength build. I worked out until the end of the day, and it was now time for my revenge against Hexer. This time around I had a new punch and even more stats than him, so with my newfound confidence I went to war. And my hard work didn't disappoint, since I finished him off in the second round and showed him who is the real macho. After the fight, a friendly-looking fella called Roy came to congratulate me on my win. After 1 or 20 beers, I ended up in the bar backyard talking to a guy about self-destruction? Wait, Tyler? Before I knew it, I was participating in Fight Club. Never mind. There is a certain rule that I must follow. Ended up in a fight against some guy. Damn. Talk about lack of parental love. Even though he had more skills and higher stats than us, we managed to get a really good first round, and I changed the uppercut for normal punch on second one, to make sure that we didn't run out of energy mid-fight. With our superior strategy and build, we got the upper hand, and sealed the deal on the third round. I also found a burger in the trash can. Can't waste food, can we? I then spent 7 of the 9 points that I had to learn muscle memory, which guaranteed that our strength wouldn't fall below 4. Pretty good, as you already know. 3 days had already passed since our defeat on Ultimate Fights, and I could finally give it another try. Our enemy was once again Fred Get Laid, and I was determined to get my vengeance. He was a tough guy for sure, but he ultimately lived up to his name, and gave us our first win on the Ultimate Fights. And for a fleeting moment, I was able to see our arch enemy, the man in black that killed our father at the start of the game. I asked Mr. Y about him, and he told me that that man arranges a tournament on his island for the best of the best, and that if I want to get invited to that island and get my final revenge, I need to become the champion of the Ultimate Fights. so that will be our goal. Back home, Frank called us to ask if we had upgraded our garage with gym equipment yet. If we bought the right gear, we wouldn't need to keep visiting the gym as much and save some money. He even gave us a recommendation for a sporting goods store where we could buy the equipment. But since I didn't have the money at the time, I decided to let it for later. I worked until day 16 and won a fight against Lenny Moskovitz, which yielded 4 skill points. And alongside 3 more from silver allowed us to learn cross punch, an even more powerful punch that also didn't require high agility. I hit the gym until I reached 6 strength and dropped by the sports goods store to see what they were selling. They offered specialized equipment to train strength, agility and stamina, and also one that gave a little bit of each. My goal was obviously to buy the bench, which costed $250, a far cry from the 77 that we have, so to come later we will. I joined some more fights in the club, and finally felt ready to spar with Silver for the first time. I completely cleaned the floor with him, and received 3 skill points as a reward, one more than the hand pants training that we were doing before. I helped Casey take care of the many orders that he was dealing with, and once again asked him about special pizza. He told me that he put special Indian spices in it, and asked if we wanted to try some. It was pretty tasty, but more importantly, there was a special order that needed to be delivered. I agreed to take care of that, and was suddenly transported to an underground sewage. The customers told us to leave the pizza there, and that they didn't need to pay because they had a special agreement with Casey. I found that pretty sus, and insisted on getting the money, when a giant ninja crocodile appeared. I don't even know anymore. It seems that we needed to beat him if we wanted to receive our payment, so I engaged in combat, and after 2 short rounds, I accomplished a green ass kicking. And his ass was apparently quite valuable, because it gave us a whopping 8 skill points, but 0 pesos, which means that we were deceived. First time I met a crocodile so dishonest. Bill seemed pretty happy with our ass-kicking techniques though, and asked us to come back again to fight his brother, Marco. So I continued to deliver pizzas, in order to make that happen, and once again, spent all the money that I earned on food. This game is becoming way too realistic for my taste. When I returned home, the bomb was glowing once again, with the crosshair being on the sports goods store this time around. I went there to investigate, and found a self-proclaimed doctor looking kinda sad. Apparently, his laser was stolen by some weird guys in animal masks, and he wanted it back. Kinda strange to be so affectionate towards a simple laser, but yeah, sure. I said I would try to get it back. After one more training with Silver, I finally had what I needed to get the Way of the Bear, which unlocked a whole new skill tree for us to use. The one focused on brute force, with high damage and energy consumption. I stopped by the gym to pump up my stats for the Rookie League fight that would happen later that day, and got extremely surprised when I discovered that Roy Jackson himself was one in the ring with us. Kinda sad for me to have to be the one to put his foolish dreams to rest, but even though I love him, I wouldn't ever throw up a fight. And I'm sure that Roy wouldn't like to win unfairly either, the proof being that he actually came to congratulate me for the fight. Roy is a good guy, that's for sure. He invited me to come around to his place sometime so that we could drink a beer or two, and I went there straight away. Unfortunately, his car seemed to have broken down, and despite my best efforts to fix it, I couldn't help him out. Nonetheless, Roy still told stories to his sister about how great I am, and she did seem quite interested in me when I went there to say hi. Our best buddy told us that she is into flowers, so I will see it as my mission to collect some and give them to her. I also asked Roy for a spare, but he told us that we should have some balance in our life, and I do agree with that. So I helped him fix his car, and chilled for a bit with him, until he was willing to spar with us. It was a pretty fair fight, with me almost knocking him out in the first round without taking any damage, and I got 2 skill points as a reward. In the next ultimate fight I was up against Sherwood, whom I won quite easily. I used all these skill points that I earned to learn the boxing punch, which deals lots of strength dependent damage, and will be our main punch for quite a while. I then got in a workout session with our bro, and he gave me all the motivation that I needed to surpass my limits. From there, I continued my usual routine of sparring with Silver and Roy, beating up some guys in backyard of the bar, delivering pizzas and participating in the Rookie League and Ultimate fights. This until I was one beaten ultimately, and Dr. White offered me some special juices to improve my performance. Something that I would never take. First, because I know the risks, and second, because I just don't need it. After some more pizza deliveries, it was time to deliver special order to the mutant crocodiles, and Mark was one answering the manhole cover this time around. I hate to admit it, but he was way stronger than me, and I got my not green ass handed to me. So I guess I will need to come back later. While traveling through the map, I had been collecting flowers to give to Adrian, and with all of them collected, it was now time to do just that. She said that we should hang out more, and we fell in love. I wish it was that easy in real life. Since I was in love, I would now spend less energy and food while training. A nice little boost, even though just for 4 days. As an advocate of gender equality, I then went for a hot, nightly session with Roy, and when I came back, the bomb case in my house was glowing once again. Mr. Y from the warehouse was victim, having some crates robbed from him. And this was when I had an epiphany. It seemed like this bomb case kept track of the crimes going on around the city, and recently there have been too many crimes happening. I concluded that what the city needed was a hero, and even though I would never make my parents proud, I decided to become Batman, the Dark Fist. My first mission was on the biker camp near my house, where a strange guy in tight shorts and a stupid mask was snooping around. Anyways, some of their dogs were missing, and they were stolen by the guys in animal masks. I, for one, am the Dark Fist, and I will not let that go unpunished. But I'm not ready right now, so I will come back later. For now, I worked for a while, and faced Dragon Ray in the ring. He had 11 stat points just like me, and it was an incredibly even and long fight. But I ended up getting that W in the end. It was unsettlingly close though, and I kinda had been lazing around in the workout lately, so that's probably the reason why. But instead of getting my ass to carry the bolts and logs, I found it way easier to just drink a nice juice and use that extra boost to defeat Mark, the ninja crocodile. For the low price of 40 cabbages, I could receive 2 temporary points in whichever stat I wanted, which is actually quite overpowered. But don't worry, this was a one-time thing, I won't get addicted. I took the opportunity to beat up Bill Spark in the bar, and swung by our favorite sewage. Mark was built like an absolute unit, with 9 points in stamina, 6 points in strength and agility, and a lot of different skills. I wasn't feeling that confident, but I managed to luck out and start the barrel with a 3-hit combo that dealt a whopping 38 damage. Something that wouldn't happen again, because I only have 1 agility. And since the agility is tied to chance of getting a successful hit, most of my punches would miss. Nonetheless, I was one that came up on top, and Mark asked me to come back again to face the mightiest brother, Cave. To prepare for that, I made sure to learn Triple Punch and Muscle Memory too. The former which causes the boxing punches to be delivered in series more often, and the latter which guarantees that our strength won't fall below 8. After that I continued grinding, until I beat Mr. Kakus and got to 3rd place in the Rookie League. At which point Silver came to congratulate me, but looking strangely upset. Upon questioning him, he confessed he was in bad waters with local Don, owing him great deals of money, and asked me if I could take a nap during the 3rd round. That's something that I would truly never do, but I offered to help him out in some other way that I could, and went to seek advice with Mick. He stated that Silver himself threw a fight in the past, and lost everything because of that. He also told me that Silver was one in possession of the legendary medallion, the one that our father had, and that should have been inherited by me and my brother upon his death. Mick gave it to him because we were too young to bear its power back then. Nobody knows where the medallion came from, but it is said to awaken infinite power within the person who wears it. Since ancient times there have always been people who serve to protect it, and more than 20 years ago our father and 3 of his friends were the ones trusted with that task. They decided to call themselves the Punch Club. Mick was one of those friends, and he made the mistake of giving the medallion to Silver, so now it's our job to get it back. And just when I thought that everything was going alright, Silver told me that he gave the medallion to the Don to cover his debts. Oh gosh. Guess we need to pay our respects to the Godfather now. Before we do that though, I have been diligently working to save up money, and now we can finally buy the old bench. With this, I will be able to make my workout at home without spending a single penny on the gym membership. I took a nap to restore my energy and dropped by our favorite sewage to the way to the dawn. Surprisingly, Gabe was a wuss, and we won without even having to fight. So I guess Steve is up next? Still on the way to the dawn, I stopped by the bar to continue my lessons on self-destruction. But since I already play League of Legends, Tyler told me that I have already graduated, and that there was nothing more that he could teach me. Yet another goal accomplished. Tyler also told me that he had a twin brother that was having some troubles with his neighbors in the trailer park, so he asked if I could help him out, and we will certainly do that in a minute. For now, let's speak with Godfather. He told me that there was a big fight happening soon, and that he would give me the medallion if I managed to win. The only problem is that I need a professional card to attend, and that sounds exactly like something that I don't have. So, I will need to achieve rank 1 in the Rookie League, and win the tournament that I can sign up for after that to get it. Which means that it's going to take a while, and we will come back later. I continued my usual affairs and beat Lovie on the ultimate fights, which made me reach the yellow zone. Since I was doing pretty well, Mr. Y felt like giving me some free information. He let me know that this league and all its fighters are the property of Dawn, and that he picks the best ones to work for him. Also, he wanted to talk to me, so I paid him another visit. He was glad to see me, and said that to participate in the big fight, we could get the professional card, or we could work for him for a while. I decided to accept it because it seemed interesting. But only the best can work for him, so I will need to become the number 1 in the ultimate fights to do that. Either way, I can't do that right now. What a shame. I went back to the lair of the mutant crocodiles and confronted last brother, Steve. And he was built like a monster, literally. Even having the Ruthless Aggression and the Shining Knight perks. The former, which made him take even less damage the more stamina he had, and Ladder, which prevented him from using any defensive abilities, but made his attacks deal 20% more damage. A good trade-off, I must confess. It was a really tough fight, and we traded blows left and right. The first round didn't look good for us, and the second one even less so, because it ended with us having a measly 1 HP. I had already quite honestly given up on the fight, but Shrimp King was yet to prove that he was not someone to make fun of, and achieved a legendary comeback. I guess you could say he was shell-shocked, but never backed down. The great crocodile family was finally out of brothers, and Steve asked if we wanted something as a reward. Well, I'm a guy who is a hero just for fun, and monetary incentives don't interest me, so I just demanded his entire base. He unfortunately pledged ignorance, and ran away moments before a mysterious raccoon appeared. It was a crocodile guy sensei, and he was willing to teach us a mighty skill, in honor of our strength. Said skill being a tail strike? What was I even expecting, really? I spent 18 skill points to learn the Boxer perk, which increases the chance of foul boxing abilities to hit the target, and visited Tyler's brother on the trailer park. His name was Mickey, and he was annoyed with Bobo, his neighbor, because he kept listening to ridiculously loud music at all times. And if you remember correctly, this big fella is the scoundrel that stole us at start of the game. So, you can be sure that I gave him a piece of my fist. It turns out that apart from being dumb, Bobo is also deaf, and he lost his hearing aid months ago. I decided to help him out finding a new one, and it came to light that the bald guy from the sports store had a spare, which I gave to Bobo. Seeing how kind we are, he offered us the opportunity to work for him, and since it is only legal if you get caught, I was more than eager to engage in some jolly cooperation. I will definitely not regret my ways of life in future. The job was actually pretty sweet, and we officially became a little Bobo. And now that I was a little Bobo, I felt almost ready to resume my job as Batman and save the world from the weirdos in animal masks. I just needed a little boost, you know, so I swung by Dr. White and bought some nice shoes. And I know that I said that last time would be the last time, but don't worry, I can stop if I want to. I'm not hooked. So, I interacted with Bomb Case and went into action. The plan was for me to ambush the filthy bandits, while Bobo and Mickey remained hidden, for some reason that I can't figure out. The mask of the culprit looked really natural, just like it wasn't a mask at all. And he said, and I quote,
"Me need barking fang."
Really scary, I know, but I had to protect the doggies. I think I should have done this fight earlier, because he was kinda weak compared to Steve, and I dealt with him rather quickly. I let Mickey know that he could summon me by using the searchlight on the roof of skyscraper of the town, and I also reported that the Bobo incident was solved, even though I was still in my Batman costume. But I guess he didn't figure out who I am anyways. He gave me some energy drinks as thanks for my efforts, and they will be really handy later in the run, but I will forget that they exist until then. And talking about things that I forgot that existed, I went to talk to Adrian, my girlfriend, and she questioned whether we were even dating, because we haven't been spending any time together. To compensate for my shortcomings, I spent all my afternoon with her, and we fell in love again. When I arrived home, something unexpected happened. My cat meowed at me. And I know that this might sound normal to you, but this was a premise to the catastrophe that was about to happen. For now, I naively continued my training, unlocked one last additional ability slot, and helped Fred get laid once again, which rendered me a whopping $150 and 7 skill points. On day 49 I was to fight against the top 1 of the Rookie League, Mr. Kakus. And yes, this is not first time that I met him, but he also improved since last time, and now he is the number 1. Or he was, I must say, because I completely annihilated him, and he was down even before the first round was over. It seems like our efforts are finally paying off, and I was really happy about it. With this, I stole his title and became the champion of the Rookie League, and now it was time to visit Mick. He congratulated me on my achievements, and signed me up for the playoff that was going to happen in 2 days. If I win, I can finally get my professional card, and participate in the big fight organized by Dawn. It's also worth mentioning that thanks to all the recent victories, I have been gaining a lot of money from fighting, and I hardly had to work at all. When I came home on day 40, the case was once again glowing, and the victim was no older than our friend Roy. His car was stolen by the bastards in animal skin, and they didn't even bother to take the engine or turn the handbrake off, which pretty much confirms that they are also some kind of mutant animals or something. I promised Roy that I would get his car back, and moments later Mickey found a note which read laser plus bridge equals exploded bridge? I think even I can draw better, and that is saying a lot, trust me. I went to the bridge to get all stuff back, and was faced against Rock Bob, probably a mutant rhino. He was really strong, and even though I thought I would lose at start, I managed to stand my ground, and thanks to an unexpected stroke of luck, I won. I got everything that they have stolen back, and just when I thought that this whole fiasco was solved, I came back home to this letter. Give the laser back, or your cat will die. That's right, they stole Mr. Fluffy from me, and are now threatening to kill it if I don't give them the laser back. I still don't know how they discovered that I was Batman, but my goal is clear: save Mr. Fluffy. Without missing a single beat, I once again wore my mask and arrived at specified place. My adversary was Bro Moose, a guy with stupidly high stats and a strength-oriented build like mine. The only thing that I had going for me is that I had my skip attacks ability, that allowed me to regenerate some energy mid-combat. Thanks to that, Bro Moose ran out of energy faster than I did, and I took advantage of that to keep knocking him out and dealing significant damage, which fortunately secured our victory. Fluffy, I saved you! No! Meow! I'm holding on. Don't let go. Meow. Meow. Give me your other paw. You are slipping off. No! And with that, I completed the goal of saving Fluffy, without actually saving Fluffy. I will miss you, my friends. I gave the laser back to Mr. White, alongside some slime that Bro Moose left on the ground. The doctor said that he would investigate it and share the results with me in a couple days. It was then time to participate in another ultimate fight, and you can imagine my surprise when I discovered that I had to fight 2 guys in a row. To be fair, even though the first one was really strong, and I bested him with barely any health left, the second one was a hell of a lot weaker, and I survived somehow. On day 42 the results were ready, and it looks like the slime was somehow related to ancient technology, and he was able to use it to make a rat that can beat him at poker. What the heck is going on here? I then visited our neighbor Raccoon and learned that all these mutants are the work of the evil genius. He was around in the past, doing all kinds of shenanigans, but then he was defeated and disappeared completely. Until now. No one has ever seen him in flesh and lived to tell the tale, but one thing that we can be sure of is that he is clever and insidious. Master Raccoon showed us the location of his old base, in hopes that he is still using it, and it was now time to avenge Mr. Fluffy. Or that was the plan, until I encountered two guys in power armor that defeated me in a single punch. Yikes. The power armor was news even to Master Raccoon, but he knew a guy who could help us get our hands on one. His name is Mac, and he was the guy who beat the Evil Genius in the past. He is retired in a ranch nearby now, so let's go there. Upon arrival, he brought up a good point, asking why he should help a random guy in ridiculous shorts. Thing is, I'm not a random guy, I'm Batman. But that's beside the point. These shorts are trending at the moment. Everyone has a pair. This guy is clearly out of touch with fashion world. He told me he never heard about them before, but that he could help me if I proved myself to him. He didn't give any further indication of what we needed to do to prove ourselves, so we will need to work with that lackluster information. A little bench press later, and I was ready to have my first fight in the playoff. My rival? Bill Davis, a ripped dude with an agility build, our worst enemy. Since our hit chance is already low to begin with, and this guy has a stupidly high dodge chance, I almost lost fight without landing a single hit. This guy straight up smoked me in round 1, and I lost playoff without winning a single fight. That's kinda humiliating, not gonna lie. Mick would be able to sign us up for next playoff in 3 days, so we were to come back when prepared. Also, a piece of wisdom. Most people don't look dumb until they start talking. Guess I better shut up. Such utter defeat could only mean one thing, the beginning of my training arc. I spent my days working, training, sparring, using the herbal potions that we got to restore our energy without needing to sleep, and repeating the process over and over and over again. 4 days later I had another job as a Dark Fist, and traveled all the way to Chinatown to save the drunk master from one of the mutant guys. Alas, he had an agility build, and thoroughly obliterated us. I continued climbing the ranks in the ultimate fights, and swung by the grocery store to buy some meat, when I came across Rob robbing the store. I gave him a bobbing and beat him to the floor. That unlocked me another achievement, and the goodwill of Apu, who was thankful for our deeds. He could have given me a discount on the meat if he was really that thankful, but sure. I performed my duties as Little Bobo, collecting taxes from the local ventures. Got beaten by the guy in power armor because I thought something would miraculously change, and it would be different this time around. My next few days were filled with working out, collecting money, eating, sleeping, and sparing for free points that I used to unlock new skills, particularly Muscle Memory 3, which prevents our strength from going below 13, and Berserker, which make us deal 30% more damage when we are low health. And this cycle continued for a really long time. I was defeated by Bill Davis when I tried again, learned Ruthless Aggression that prevented us from using any defensive abilities, but gave us a 20% attack boost, and by the day 75, 27 whole days since the start of my training arc, I was ready to try again. I drank some juice, because it wasn't addicting anyways, and faced off Ruby in the playoff. He had a very stamina-oriented build, which means that he dodges very little, and is a sponge at taking damage, which is perfect for us. We kept dealing some big cheeky damage, and despite all that stamina, he still ran out of energy and got knocked to the floor. The fight was over before the round 2. And yes, that's 81 damage in a single punch. Ouch. It's worth mentioning that I had already reached the end of the bear skill tree, and was now picking useful skills from the earlier branches. I found the very last skill of the tree not that good, so I didn't take it. 3 days later and it was fight for the finals. We were matched with Manny, a lad that raised many stats, but didn't particularly focus on one. Exactly what the game advised us not to do. And well done so. Our build proved its superiority, and we dealt a brutal 180 damage combo. That guy better be called Ash, because he ain't waking up until the end of the show. By day 81, my juice abuse had finally caught up to me, and I was suffering some serious side effects. Or I was supposed to be, but I think the game bugged and I was all normal. Anyways, these side effects were due to the lack of magic in my body, and I could either wait for them to go away or take another potion to restore said magic. Also, his mom is forcing him out of the basement, and he will raise the prices. Right now it is 80 bucks a juice, and I don't really know why, but I was suddenly only left with $3. Really weird. After that super normal phenomenon, I was ready for the final fight of the playoff. My opposition was Bill Wilson, following the way of the bear and the use of boxing punches and triple punch. He had a build just like mine, the only difference being that he was packing 11 points in stamina, in contrast to my humble 4. I was using 3 attack modifiers. Tormentor Strikes, which decreases the opponent's agility with each successful punch. Exhauster, which makes our strikes deal more damage to the opponent's energy. And finally, Beef Hammer, which makes our attacks have a chance to reduce the enemy's stamina. If I was to win, it was to be thanks to all that. The first round started very well, with me dealing 3 successful punches, without taking any. But things quickly went for the worse when Bill refused to get knocked down, despite his single point in energy. He somehow recovered his breath, and I was the one that fell. Round 1 ended, and although not great, it was looking favorably. We had less energy, but a hell of a lot more health than him, so I confidently went for second round, only to have my dreams and skull crushed by getting knocked down 3 times in a row. It's sad, but the playoff ended with our defeat. The training continued, and 6 days later I could try again, and I lost in the first round. Curse you, Bill Wilson. Guess this only serves to prove how powerful the way of the bear can be. Every time I had a playoff I would drink a magic potion, and I ended up contracting magic fever. Now the side effects caught up to me, for real. This made my hunger and energy bar go down faster than normal, which forced me to eat and sleep more often. Don't worry though, I learned my lesson and I will stop now. I also passed the yellow zone of the ultimate fights and arrived at the red zone, now confronting 1 strong enemy at a time instead of 2 weaker ones, and gaining a lot of money and skill points with each win. And I'm going to be honest with you, these days were really repetitive and boring. But I'm the one that chose to play this on hardcore, so I can't really complain. Playing on hardcore means that every enemy in the game will scale with me, and become stronger the more I myself become stronger. So that's probably why this took so long. On day 95 I lost first round of the playoff against Ruby, and 2 days later I had a fight with Pounchy, the final boss of the Ultimate League. I managed to win him quite easily, and became the #1 Blood Champion. Now, it was time to talk to the Don. I expressed my desire to work for him and he gave me a task to complete. There is a gentleman in Chinatown called the Drunk Master, and our godfather wants him to leave. Plain and simple. I went to pay him a visit and was intercepted by Mick. He complained about my contractor and explained that's something a fighter shouldn't get involved in. I didn't know at the moment, but this is a crucial decision, and depending on which answer you choose, you will have a completely different path going forwards, and also a different ending. Which is also the reason I had to make a second playthrough to complete 100% of the game, but more on that later. I thought about my options for a while, and settled on giving up all the gangster crap, and continuing to live an honest life. For now at least. I continued following my usual training routine, and on the 100th day, I participated in playoff opposing Bob Balson, a bald guy that I won without any big trouble. Next up on line was Manny Stats, who was stronger than last time thanks to us being on hardcore, but despite that, our build still proved its superiority, and he was lying cold in the ground by the end of the first round. And now, for our final enemy! The one between us and the professional card. We have the feared, the dreaded, the one and only Bill Wilson. This David Goggins wannabe already crushed my dreams more times than I can count, but I was willing to try again. And would you know it, I destroyed him with 7 punches, with more than half of my health to spare. Needless to say, I was really happy. After half a century I finally got my professional card and was able to progress through the story. I swung by the cafe and asked Don to participate in the big fight, and he told me to go home to prepare. Unfortunately though, I broke my leg on the way, and was now incapable of participating. Talk about luck. As destiny would have it, our friend Roy came to pay us a visit and offered to fight for us. If Roy won, we would get the medallion from Don, and Roy himself would get famous. Not a bad deal. The day of the big fight arrived, and Roy entered the ring. He was up against a Zangief, an absolute mountain and a beast of a fighter, with whom he stood no chance. Unexpectedly, Roy died from the hit he took in the head, and Zangief fled with the medallion to Russia. I still can't believe that developers killed him. He was such a nice guy, for real. I loved him. We needed to get the medallion back, and Mick had an old friend living in Russia, so he asked him to train me. Without further delay, I embarked on a plane and arrived at New Lands. This Russian guy was waiting for us in his hut, and this will be the place we will train, eat and sleep from now. He told me that he will reveal all the secrets regarding my father and the legendary medallion if I manage to beat a Zangief, so that's one thing to look forward to. First though, I will need to prove my worth by beating the local fighters. I can train outside, and he will give me all the food that I need for free, so this is the best place to grow, really. Since I felt ready, I asked Ivan for a fight right away, and he matched me with his friend, a poet, Alex Treaty. And holy cow, I have never seen a poet that powerful. People from Russia are really built different, huh? Despite his high stats, he was in fact not a fighter, and I completely destroyed him in the first round, without taking a single hit. I had to wait a few days for the next brawl, so I took the opportunity to eat some borscht and piroski, sleep, and train a little more. The tools at my disposal were a clothesline to do some pull-ups, which gave me agility and stamina. Logs to chop, which also gave me agility and stamina. A tree to punch, which gave me a bit of all three stats. And wood to saw, which gave me strength and stamina. 2 full days of training later, and I was ready to take on the second foe, who, once again, was not even a fighter, but a philosopher. And I'ma tell you, the last thing that I think about when I see this guy is philosophy. And he also had the dancing girl perk, which I thought was pretty funny. Bratishka had an agility build, which, as you already know, it's kind of our counter. But even that didn't save him from defeat, and he fell with just 5 punches. Not sure why he didn't dodge, but I ain't complaining. With this, I finally won the respect of Ivan, and he was now willing to tell me everything that he knew. Our father was a wise man that loved me and my brother. He knew about the power of the medallion, and swore to protect it alongside his friends. He deemed it would be a good idea to use it, and decided to split it in half, and give one part to me and the other to my brother. Everyone knew it was a terrible idea, and tried to take the medallion back, but our father just wouldn't budge on it. Years later, someone killed him, and John was accused of being the one that did it, because the police found his fingerprints on the gun. Despite that, Ivan was sure that John was innocent. Mick took the medallion, and Ivan left Punch Club and came to the other side of the world. And that leads to where we are now. I asked if my father had any enemies, but Ivan said that he didn't, and that no one outside Punch Club knew about the medallion. Which is a lot of new information, but still not enough to discover who is the real killer. I need to concentrate in the present though, because I still have to deliver vengeance to the one that killed Roy. It is said that he is as strong as a bear, so our next opponent will be one. Yes, you heard it right, a freaking bear. I was also baffled at the moment. And he wasn't kidding, my opponent was indeed a bear called Teddy. He had some pretty neat moves and almost bit my head off, but I managed to achieve victory in the end. With that done, my training session was complete, and it was time to face a Zangief. He was an absolute unit, with crazy high stats and a myriad of overpowered skills and perks. It is an understatement to say that I was pretty scared. Also, just look at him, he is pretty darn terrifying. Despite all my fears, I pressed forward and engaged in combat, and I actually won quite easily. I think it was due to all the training that I did when I was trying to get a professional card. It was frustrating for sure, but it paid off. With this victory, I had finally avenged Roy, and got half of the medallion back, so I returned home. Upon arrival, Mick gave me his congratulations, and told me that he was able to track down the location of my brother. He lived in a warehouse across the river, by the name of Mr. Y. Yep, that's him. He did say that he would be just like me if he didn't have a scar on his face, so it makes sense. Although I was waiting for a heartwarming reunion, he told me that he always hated me from the bottom of his heart, and that I was the reason our father died. Since I wasn't fast enough to keep up with them as they run, our father had to stop and fight the man in black, which resulted in him taking a shot to the face. Nonetheless, I shared with my brother my wish of working together to find culprits, but he wanted to do it alone. Given that the Man in Black only invites the very best fighters to his island, his plan was to become the Ultimate League champion and get an invite. And that's one of the two routes. The other one is to become the Rookie League champion, which is the one that we are following. I will also do the other one on the next playthrough, since a lot of things change, but that's for later. I dropped by Mick's office to see if he could help me getting an invitation, and he told me more about the mysterious island. It is said that every 4 years the Man in Black gathers the best fighters from all over the world to determine who is the best, and to this day he is still the one that held onto that title. In order to get his invitation I need to become an official world champion, and since I already have a professional card, there is nothing keeping me from starting my professional career. Being a professional champion is not just about being strong though. I will also need to manage my fame and my popularity, and for that I will need a manager. Fortunately, Mick knew just the right guy, and I paid him a visit right away. And before we start talking with him, it's worth mentioning that I used all the skill points that I earned in Russia to unlock the skill tree of the Way of the Turtle. I did this because I had already gotten all the skills that I wanted from the normal tree and Way of the Bear, so the only sensible thing to do was to unlock a new one. Then Kong welcomed me into his mansion and we started business talks right away. I showed him Thunder, my left bicep, and he had audacity to say that he was not impressed. That's why I always use hoodies. He also straight up told me to shut up since I didn't know how to talk, and proceeded to go over the plan, which was to start living in his mansion. He had a gym in the basement, and I could also bring my girlfriend, so it was all perfect. I signed the contract and started my journey to become an official world champion. First thing that I did was check out the gym that I had at my disposal, which quite honestly had everything that I needed. The next step was obviously to assault the fridge, and oh my gosh, we have coffee now? Caviar even? We do be living like kings, huh? I had a whole turkey for breakfast, and interacted with King Dong. To become the world champion I need to fight and win against other strong and popular dudes, but in order to do that, I first need to get enough fame to be able to challenge them. The first one on the list is Modern Tyson, and I need 350 fames to be able to fight him. To get famous I can throw a party, which rewards us with 150 fames, but also costs $500 to do, so it is kinda expensive. To cover those costs I can make advertisements, which gives us $750, but costs 75 fame to do, so you get the idea about how this works. I can also buy upgrades that boost the fame and money that I get from throwing parties and advertisements, and even give us some passive income. And I can also shoot movies, but more on that later. I deemed that the best course of action was to start by filming some advertisements to secure that bag. This yielded 750 cabbages, but completely depleted our fame, so I went back and bought a show-off upgrade, and threw a party to recover some of it back. I then took a pause from all the career management stuff, and dropped by a Pew store to buy literally everything that I could. Feels good to be rich. I also stopped by Adrian's place to invite her to come live with me in the mansion. She eagerly accepted, and now she is here with us. I drank 2 coffees and 5 energy drinks to have a heart attack. To restore my energy, and shot a movie. This costs fame and money to do and give us a continuous supply of guys to beat. The more we beat, the more rewards we get in the end, but if we lose even once, we lose everything. The first candidate to become Pulp was Alien 1, which I won against without barely losing any health. I continued to the second fight with my health from the previous one, and also beat Alien 2 quite easily. Now I could either check out and take the prize with me, or risk it to gain even more. I obviously chose the second option and continued right away. I successfully beat Alien 3, 4 and 5, and also decided to take on the last one, Alien 6. He wasn't all that strong. However, I only had half of my health left thanks to all the other aliens that I fought before, so it wasn't going to be as easy as one would expect. Fortunately, I kept dealing big juicy damage, and managed to win with just 25 health left. As a prize for my unmatched performance, I took home a whopping $1,500, 25 skill points, and 350 fame. Thanks to that, we achieved the threshold necessary to fight Tyson Mike, but I would rather invest it in some upgrades than spending it all, so I did just that. I managed to maximize my show-off upgrade, which granted us an impressive 150% bonus on all the fame that we get. I then bumped my stamina to 8, drank all the coffee that I had, and threw some parties to regain some of the fame back. I could now confront Mike, the first of the 6 fighters that I need to defeat to become the world champion and get invited to the mysterious island. Unsurprisingly, he was an absolute menace, with a tremendous 42 points in combined stats, which took away any confidence that I had and made me go back to grinding. I recorded a bunch of advertisements and threw a handful of parties, until I had all the resources that I needed to fully upgrade everything. I also continued my rigorous training and shot a movie where the antagonists were pirates instead of aliens. I beat Pirates 1 all the way to 4, but embarrassingly lost against Pirate 5 and didn't get a penny. I made sure to keep sparing with silver every once in a while, and always bought energy drinks every day to restore my energy, since money wasn't a problem anymore, and sleep was a waste of time. I also made a trip to Mac's ranch, and he finally deemed that I proved myself enough, and was now willing to help me. When he was in business, the Don was just starting to develop the power armors, and he bets the evil genius bought them from him. If I want some for myself, I need to invade the Don's secret base. I can't take the complete armor set in one go though, so I will need to take parts one by one, and Mac will assemble them for me. He showed me the location of Don's secret base, and I was faced with a robot defending the entrance. I dealt with him at the cost of more than half of my health, and learned that this was also an endurance test, just like the one when shooting movies. The deeper we go into Don's base, the higher the chance of getting a piece of armor, and if we lose, we return with nothing. I tried my luck on the second robot, and emerged victorious with just 6 HP left. The guys here were really strong, and there was no way in hell that I could take on another one. So I took my leave with just a 20% chance of getting a piece of armor, and I didn't get any. Well, we can always try again. I cleaned half of my fridge to replenish my health and energy, and gave it another try. This time I disassembled Robot 1 all the way to 5, and was now to meet my final target, Robot 6, aka T799B. Such a menacing name. He wasn't really that much more powerful than the other ones though, and I still had 102 health left, so I gave him 5 punches to the iron-coated cranium and came out on top. This granted us 15 skill points and the bottom part of the power armor. I then continued my routine of throwing parties, making advertisements, shooting movies, eating peas and drinking coffee to regenerate my health and energy, and invading Don's base to get more armor parts. Between all of this, I also kept training and talking to my girlfriend, and on day 125, I finally felt ready to challenge Mike. And I'ma be honest, it was a little bit easier than expected, and I beat him round 1. Due to that, I got a massive $1,000, and needed now to gather 800 fame to challenge Mighty Lee Bruce. I once again continued following the routine, and soon enough, I was in the ring with him. And he also kissed the floor. The same applied to Ryo and Keen, who also met their defeat in their due time. And now, Hulk Hogan was the only one left. If I beat him, I become number 1. But can we just talk about how much freaking time I spent training? I barely included any of it because it would be plain old boring, but you can bet that I spent a whole bunch of time doing it. I also got all the armor parts that I needed, and getting a power core was the only thing left to do. Don should keep one at his place, so I went there one last time. And to my surprise, Don himself was the one fighting this time around. But despite his respectable stats, I was the one getting the win, without taking a single hit at that. Guess I'm just that good. With that out of the way, I finally had the power armor that I needed to invade the evil genius not so secret base. And these guys that previously knocked me out in a single punch, now met their defeat before the Bat Fist. I also triggered this cutscene again for some reason. I didn't know while I was playing the game, but I just now learned that's an actual bug the devs forgot to fix. I was actually supposed to see another cutscene here, but they kinda broke the quest in a more recent patch. So I searched the internet and found some footage for you guys to see. I borrowed it from the Sparrow's journey, so thank you so much, mate. It turns out that Fluffy can talk, and that he is the evil genius himself. I really wasn't expecting this outcome. He also managed to fake his death, which doesn't surprise me one bit. Everyone knows cats don't take fall damage. It seems that he was just an average cat in the past, but thanks to always playing with the medallion that Mick had, he started changing into who he is now. Also, the only reason why he stayed with us was that he knew we would get the medallion back, and he wanted it for him. I also apparently didn't feed him even once in 10 years, which I'm pretty sure qualifies as animal mistreatment. Because of that, Fluffy had to steal food to survive, and started building his evil empire, bit by bit. Everything to prepare his revenge against us. With this in mind, I lifted Mr. Fluffy in the air, showed him the atomic bomb that he was preparing to deploy, and let him know that stuff that bad kitties do, and that I don't want to see him building underground bases and nuclear bombs ever again. With that, the problem was solved, and it was time for the bad fist to hang up his shorts and retire, until the city ever needs a hero again. I ate the fridge to replenish all my health and energy, and set to defeat Hulk Hogan. The man was so huge that he didn't even fit in the square, but I wouldn't let that stop me. I started the round by dealing a cheeky 57 damage, and things only got worse from there. To him, I mean. 1/4 of the round had barely passed, and I had already secured my victory. I won a staggering $5,000, and was now the official world champion. Plim Plim Plom was as happy as I was, and now, the only thing that I needed to do was to wait for the invitation. I visited Mick one last time and let him know that I was fully prepared to exact vengeance on the man that killed my father. And although I couldn't be with my family in this important moment, I at least visited the house where I spent my childhood and received the invitation to the mysterious island. Upon arrival, the man in black welcomed me and my brother, and we were to fight between us to decide who is the best fighter. My brother also had a strength-oriented build like mine, and even had more stats than I did, but I was confident in all the perks that I had accumulated along the game, and started showdown. Despite having almost the same hit chance as I did, my brother still managed to evade most of my attacks, but the ones that did hit dealt a ton of damage, so it wasn't a problem. By the end of round 1, he ran out of energy, and got knocked out for good. I won the Best of Brothers achievement, and finally confronted the man in black. He killed my father, and now I wanted my revenge. Before I could smash him to pieces though, he had a story to tell. There were 2 little brothers. Their father loved them very much, so he gave them 2 parts of a mighty medallion. Unfortunately, one of the parts started becoming corrupted, but nobody noticed. At first, the brothers were equally powerful, but as time passed, one of the brothers started becoming much stronger. He started to lose all kindness in his heart, and in one fateful night, he lost the rest of his humanity and killed his own brother to take the other part of the medallion. He conquered the entire city and destroyed it. His father and his father's friends stood together to stop him, and after a furious fight, they won. But the poor father lost everything. His sons, his friends and his city. There was nothing left now, apart from the medallion, so he destroyed it in order to fix everything. I am your father. And the game ended. Yes, I know, you are probably really confused. I was too. I will explain everything to you in a minute. First, let me just say that this isn't the end of our 100% adventure, and I will still play through another game and make different choices that will make me live a completely different life. So, back to the ending. As I said, I was also really confused, and I searched the internet for an explanation. What seems to have happened is the following. In the past, our father split the medallion in 2 and gave one part to me and the other to my brother. However, one of the parts became corrupted, causing the person wearing it to kill the other. Our father and his friends tried to stop the person with the corrupted medallion, and although they succeeded, his friends and his son died. So our father used the medallion's power to go back in time to our current timeline, and convince his past self not to split the medallion in 2. The current version of our father didn't want to listen though. So to prevent same tragedy from happening again, the man in black, who is our time-traveling father, shot our current father. And this is where the game started. Interestingly enough, on this playthrough I opted for the good ending, which means that my brother was the one that had the corrupted medallion. But in my next playthrough I will choose the bad ending, which means that I will be the one with the corrupted side. It's impossible to 100% punch Club in a single playthrough, so let's start the second one right away. I chose the normal difficulty because I had already completed the game on hardcore, and the super easy mode disables the achievements, so it wouldn't work. I also needed to beat the game in less than 100 days to complete one of the achievements, and taking into consideration that it took 144 days last time, I will need all the help that I can get. And so, Lil Seal's journey started. One of the achievements that I missed on first run was to beat the criminals that try to steal your wallet. The thing is that they will only assault you if you have a considerable amount of money, and since I was always broke, they never bothered with me. This time though, I always made sure to have at least 200 bucks in my pockets, and on the day 26, I met my first robber, Lovey. On this run I was going for an agility build that focused on the tiger skill tree, and although I almost lost, I managed to protect my wallet in the end. This was the first of the 3 punks that I need to beat to get the crime fighter achievement, and I beat the 2 others shortly after. The last one told me to meet his boss, Bobo, and that's exactly what I did. He told me that he thought I was twice as big, and I said that I thought he was twice as smart. He couldn't handle a little flame, so he went to hit me. Unfortunately for him, his abilities were as small as his brain, and he lost without even putting up a fight. With that, I got the Triple B achievement and continued my playthrough until I became the champion of the Ultimate League. This time I was set on working for Don, and went to Chinatown to handle the business that he asked. I arrived at Chinatown and was surprised by Casey, the guy that ran the pizzeria. I let him know that I had business to attend to, but he refused to step aside, told me that he loved my mother, and challenged me to a fight. What can I say, right? He had a pretty balanced build, which, as we already learned, isn't ideal for this game. Furthermore, it was already day 80, and by this time I was already pretty overpowered. I had a substantial 18 points in agility, and was using Cobra Strike. It is the last ability of the Tiger skill tree, and upon connecting it works like Venom, dealing damage until the end of the fight. So I would usually use it during the first round and swap it out. Poor Casey no stats didn't stand a chance, and fell by round 3. I let the drunk master know that he was to leave Don's territory, and he went away without complaining. I got a new achievement and went to report what happened to the Don, and he had yet another job for me. His Russian partner was arriving soon, and he wanted me to meet him and hand him a package of something definitely not suspicious. He also gave me a gun and told me to encounter his friend at the bridge. When I arrived at the agreed location, I gave him the package, and moments later, when I was peacefully walking back, the police appeared and found the gun that I had on me. As a result, I went to trial and was promptly imprisoned. This is certainly one of the biggest scams that I have ever fallen for, only behind last weekend when I paid $4 for a bottle of water. I started a conversation with one of the inmates, and he let me know that this isn't the worst place on earth, and that we can actually have some fun here. There is a gym in the yard and food in my cell, and seeing that it is all free, this is actually a pretty good place. I gotta stay at prisons more often. I took a look around and noticed that they actually give us a respectable selection of food, and the gym outside wasn't bad either. There was a guy feeding pigeons, and he took interest in me. He told me that I look exactly like my father when he was young, and that he is the one that was accused of killing him. Although, as we already know, he wasn't the one that really did it. I also got some fresh intel about fights that the guards organize here in the prison. If I take part in those and emerge victorious, I can leave this place. And that's something that I don't really want to, because where else would I find free food, housing and a place to train? Unfortunately, I needed to beat the game in less than 100 days, so I had no real choice. I approached the guard and signed up for the next fight. If I wanted to achieve freedom, I needed to beat 3 pretenders and the champion, so I started the first match right away. I was up against Bob Gardner, a a stamina-oriented build. Since I'm following the way of the tiger, the fights take much longer than they did in my last playthrough, but the build is still very efficient, and I beat him without barely taking a single hit. It's just that it took 4 rounds instead of 1. I then trained for 2 days until I could start the next fight, and beat the 2 other pretenders, only leaving the champion left. On this last duel for freedom I was opposing Big Rob, who despite giving a slightly better performance than the other guys, didn't really stand a chance against me, and got knocked out in 4th round. I was now the prison champion, and enjoyed my earlier than expected freedom. I confronted Dawn about all the bull that happened, and I started perceiving time differently? What the heck does that even mean? The Dawn was impressed with our prison shenanigans, and gave me his part of the medallion. I then met my brother for the first time in this run, and he seemed way kinder than in the last one. He also said that I was the stronger one when we were kids, which confirms that I'm indeed one that has the corrupted side of the medallion this time around. The 2 parts of the medallion were now reunited, and together we were strong enough to beat the Man in Black. But we needed an invitation first. Dawn could organize a championship for us, but we will need to earn his respect first. My brother has some associates who want to be more than just street robbers. Their hideout is nearby, and they are in need of a strong leader, so I will be the one to take that role. I swung by the gang's hideout and let them know that I haven't seen anyone cooler than me. This instantly made them respect me, and I became the leader of the gang. The city is divided by other gangs, so we will need to fight for territory and defeat the other leaders to transform it into our domain. As in the mansion, I have a gym in the basement, and Joe will prepare our food, so I can focus on training and taking over the city. I could interact with Harry to bring up a menu very similar to the one provided by Dig Bong. I could make deals at the cost of respect to get money, play poker games at the cost of money to get respect, and start a gang war at the cost of both to enter an endurance test. I could also buy upgrades, but you already know the drill. I just need to get enough respect to beat up the other gang leaders and become the biggest, baddest seal in the waters. I did all that, and by day 92 I was able to have my final showdown against the last crime lord, Mr. Pimsman. He had a respectable amount of stats, but by this time I already had 20 points in agility, and he went down like all the others. The last gang boss in the city was beaten, and I became number 1. My brother arranged with the Dawn to get an invitation, and we went together to the final islands. I have proved that I deserve to be there, and now I needed to prove that I am the best fighter. Since my brother is weaker than me on this run, instead of facing him I faced the Man in Black's champion, Sub 273. Curiously enough, the Mortal Kombat reference also had an agility build like mine, but given that I wasn't playing on hardcore, the enemies weren't scaling with me and he had fewer stats than I did. I obviously secured our victory and got the final achievements that I needed, Ninja Slayer and 100 days, which means that now I have officially completed 100% of Punch Club. Thank you so much for watching, and before you go, make sure to check out this video right here. It is about my 100 days journey northwards, an open world survival RPG with magic, dungeons and bosses. It is a very unique and interesting game, and I'm sure that you will find the video really interesting as well. See you there!